And in the middle there's a hole, because sometimes we get too down on ourselves. But that's why I also brought donut holes, because in terms of reclaiming our
I'm
past,
sorry, you can put it on top.
we have to remember our history, which is the donut hole.
You know, sometimes it is just about the story. So get your food. Get your food. Get your plate. You won.
You made this food though?
So as each person tells their story, actually, I appreciate that Lawrence has his camera out. If the rest of y'all could take photos too and send them to me, I would really appreciate it. So at least one picture per person, okay? Try to take a picture. Get your cameras out. This is how often am I going to tell you in class to take out your phone. Okay.
I'm Veronica, and I made these shortbread cookies. And I got the recipe and also changed the recipe from my sister's mother-in-law, which I lived with them for a few years, and they're from Hawaii. So I chose this because she was the first person that actually taught me how to cook with actual measurements. When I used to try to be in my mom's kitchen, I would not know what she's doing anyway. But I chose this because I really look up to her, and everything she makes is either with butter and sugar and love. So chose that, and that's it.
What's her name?
Joyce. Her name is Joyce Cuba.
Thank you, Veronica. Get your food.
Hi, my name is Freya, and I've brought chocolate crinkles, which are basically like this cookies with like a cake-like consistency, like rolled in powdered sugar. So it's just sugar mostly. But I brought it because when I was younger, there was actually this bakery in the Philippines that makes them really well. So it's become a comfort food that was introduced to me by my aunt. And for like the longest time, the dessert wasn't popular here in the States. And so that's why I learned how to make it, to kind of connect back with that. And yeah.
Thank you.
Ah.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I made this, I guess you could call it like a cornbread souffle. It's like cornbread but more, or it's supposed to be more fluffy. I don't know how it is now. But my mom always makes this, and I chose...
What's your mom's name, Michelle?
My mom's name is Susie. So I think my mom is like actually the person who helped me get started in Asian American Studies, just because like I'm fourth generation, and like she has this crazy history where her family was originally from Louisiana, but she was adopted by her father's paper brothers, so like the paper sons, but they were brothers. And then with her adopted family, they actually helped start Chinatown in LA. Like there's like a plaque with her family name on it and stuff. So we have this like crazy history, and I just wanted to make sure that I...
So this is like a Louisiana cornbread.
Sure. But yeah, okay.
I love that family history. Thanks, Michelle, and thanks to Susie for her cornbread. Can you actually cut this into squares? That's really make a lot easier. Thanks, Michelle.
Alright, what's good, y'all? My name is Leonard Nerona. The dish that I brought is actually my mom's spaghetti sauce. So this is actually the first dish that my mother and I made together. She taught it to me maybe like 6-7 years ago when I as I was exiting high school. And I use the spaghetti sauce that I bring to all my parties just because it's a piece of my mother or a piece of my own like family history that I can bring. A lot of people give me compliments, so it's kind of cool. But it holds a special place in my heart because it makes me feel like I'm back at home. And that's one of the ways that, even if I'm here in San Francisco, that I can find like an avenue to have that homey feeling again.
Thank you. Grab a plate.
Okay, so my name is Sam. I bought lumpia. I really wanted to either make it or make mac and cheese was like my options. But then by the time I decided, like, after I was done finishing, like, my studying and everything, all the stores were closed, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 6 in the morning and order lumpia from AJ's Barbecue on Ocean. So, but there's a story as to why I picked it. So lumpia is actually the first Filipino dish that I learned how to make, that my mom taught me how to make. And so it's just kind of funny that I bought it, because my mom's always like, never buy lumpia from like anywhere, like my lumpia is the best, like don't ever blah blah blah, so it's kind of funny I think. But like when I think of home and when I think of like a dish that reminds me of home, it definitely, like lumpia or mac and cheese is like the first thing that pops into my head, because it's something that my mom always made with me. My mom, whenever she made it, it would take hours, because it's, to make like 100, it's like such a long strenuous process, you know, to like wrap and get the cornstarch and like knead the ground beef together with all the ingredients, like it's so long. And so I feel like what really brought me and my mom close together growing up is definitely the process of making lumpia, because it took so long, because we'd have to be sitting together, like we just get to talking, and it's what really brought us close together. So well, I'm probably gonna tell her about this later, and she's gonna be like, dang it, like why did you, I had like lumpia at home that she brought from, that we made Thanksgiving, but I finished that in like 2 days. So I was like, there was no way I was gonna save that for this, because like it's so good that I'm just gonna end up eating it. But yeah, that's my story.
Warren, why are you in a circle?
Yeah, Warren.
Yeah, Warren.
Warren Clement.
What's going on? What's really
So my name is AJ. I too brought lumpia, but I actually made it with my mom. And it's kind of crazy because in my family, all the women have a different version of lumpia. So my mom's version has ground beef, which is kind of like fried a little bit, or ginisa, with mixed vegetables. So it's carrots, peas or green beans, and corn. And then there's also vinegar, garlic, onion, and soy sauce that goes along with it, so you get hit with that sweet and savory at the same time. For me, my relationship with food and like family is like, I think for a lot of Filipinos, food is a very conversational piece, and it allows us to connect to each other, and food also represents struggle, because it is a struggle to, you know, have to wrap all those things individually, but at the end of the day, you're able to commune with your family and break bread, basically. And then I guess it's also like understanding your relationship to your food, because for Filipinos, a lot of our stuff is influenced by different nations. We have a colonial diet as well, and it's understanding which foods are indigenous to us, but also which foods feel good, right? And I think just making this lumpia with my mom, like kind of similar to what Sam said. You know, if you work on a struggle together, it's a very conversational piece, and you know what you eat at the end of the day, eating like the fruits of your labor, it really kind of binds people together. It brings that whole idea of kapwa, the shared identity, right? I am you and you are me. And you can also see that when it comes to like Filipino parties, like the first thing that they ask you is if you've eaten yet. So it's really conversational, it's transactional, but it's also out of like healing and love for each other and self-love. So.
Thank you. Chinese say that too.
Yeah, I heard, yeah.
Right? You don't say hello, you say, have you eaten yet? Okay, all right, come on. I'm Leanne.
Hi, I'm Abel.
And
And why we're both standing together is, well, if it haven't been very apparent, is that we're partners. And we made this together is actually our garlic rice. And something that connected with me actually is like, the first thing that got my parents together was actually through food. So my mom was like a worker as like a CNA. So like for the most part, like my dad would like take time out of his day every time he would have lunch, get it, and then bring it to my mom before they were even married. So that's kind of how they got together. I think this is kind of like a cool way for me, where since we were able to like do this together, and like even though we don't have like too much, is that we're able to collaborate.
that's beautiful. Where is that? Is it this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so like my experiences with garlic rice specifically is every Saturday morning my parents would make garlic rice. And they would just use like leftover oil from like longanisa or something. And so then it would taste like longanisa.
Does this have longanisa in it?
No,
Is it vegetarian?
it's straight up just rice.
It's just rice, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're fine.
Good. That's what I
But,
wanted to hear.
yeah, so like I would just wake up every Saturday morning and smell of garlic rice and like other like Filipino breakfast. And it would just like remind me of like how simple it was in the Philippines and how simple it was living back home when life is so busy out here.
Garlic rice with mushroom gravy. That's beautiful, you guys. Thank you for sharing your stories. And I love how your family history is intertwining with you two as a couple. It's really sweet.
Okay, hi, I'm Juan.
Hi.
I brought the banana bread. That's my mom's recipe.
Where's-
I actually made it. I made it yesterday.
Oh.
The banana bread is kind of like it was one of my favorite dishes that I had growing up that she made, and it kind of acts like a bridge to my future because I have a long-term partner and we have a baby together, as you already know. And that's her favorite dish as well, and it's kind of like reminiscent of what, it's kind of the past and future, because my girlfriend says that she'd like to make that in the future, so it's kind of like both,
That's beautiful. What's your baby's name?
Oh, my baby's name is Tien Jen. It's a
Tien?
Tien Jen, Vietnamese family name. So,
That's awesome, Juan.
so you should definitely try it. It's
Thanks
good.
for sharing that. Wait, which one was it?
This one.
Oh, the banana bread, yeah. I can't wait to try that.
Okay, I'm Jerry. I bought the Lao sausage and the sticky rice. So the reason I bought that is when I think about the good times when I was young, it's usually dealing with food and stuff. So what we typically ate when I was young, this always consisted of sticky rice. So you actually eat that with your hands, not with a fork. And then a protein of your choice. And my protein I chose was Lao sausage. So it's probably my favorite out of all the Laotian foods and stuff. So. Yeah, if you are hoping to get high cholesterol,
Did you tell, wait, Jerry,
Oh,
did you tell us
yeah.
about a family member?
oh yeah, my mom. So, so my mom, same thing like you guys were saying. There's no affection, right? There's no I love you and all that stuff. So the way she shows it, her affection is through food. So she always asks, have you eaten yet? That means, how are you today? I love you, blah, 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 all that stuff. So, but today I bought it, but I made it as well. So I bought it frozen and rice. But I made it today. So
Can I ask you, Jerry, when did you figure out that have you eaten means I love you? When did you realize that?
Probably my late 20s. So I just never really thought of it. It was kind of irritating because it was just like, there was, whenever I would call my mom, she'd be like, the first question, it's like I could have like a checklist, it's like, boom, have you eaten today? It's like, can I do it? And I'm smart enough to say yes, even though I haven't, because
Hi.
I'd be,
We have a final in here.
We have a final in here.
You do?
Yeah. But you know what? The university has,
It's a great final. Could we join you?
yeah, so.
We'll go in the classroom next door and
Is it
see what
available?
happens.
Is it empty? I've noticed that because there's non-standard schedules.
No, this has happened before, but we worked it out typically, but they didn't warn us this time
Look
around.
at all this stuff.
So,
That's a learning story. He's my professor.
He's the one that what?
He's the one that roasted me.
What do you mean?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that's the one.
what?
Have later.
So this is the reason that we have such a dressed up Justin today, is that that guy called him out for being like, wearing sweatpants all the time or something.
You wear them sweatpants, bro.
So let's go back to Jerry's story here. Because, I did I do think, y'all, that this is something that's really kind of crucial for a lot of us. Jerry, how old are you? Would you share that with us?
34.
34. So when did you
Wow.
realize, so you were in your late 20s when it occurred to you that your mom saying, "Have you eaten yet?" actually meant "I love you." So I'm 48 and I'm still struggling with that because my mom and I, whenever I talk to her on the phone, and I say, "Okay, bye, Mom, I love you," she says, "Okay, bye." Right? Like every time. Like when she says I love you, it almost seems like I tricked her into it. That's the kind of vibe I get from her. And yeah, I know she loves me, right? But it's hard. Am I right? So for the rest of you all, have you gotten to that point where you recognize that "have you eaten yet?" or "here's some," or "let's make some of this together" actually means "I love you"? Or are you still kind of learning that? Yeah, you want to share?
I think like, depending on your relationship with your parents,
Yeah.
I've like forcefully like emphasized that I love them so much
Yeah.
that even if like, cause my dad like grew up in like a family where he never got that from his parents, so like he instantaneously, when he got close with his children, at whatever point, like, was able to say it, but my mom is the one that doesn't at all. She's the one that say it, like, in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I've, like, consistently been doing it since I've been young, that she's just, like, she'll say something, but she won't say love.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, the closest I've heard is, like, I love you.
I love you.
Yeah, but it's, like, intended to joke around, but I know it's, like,
You know that that's what's at the heart of it. Yeah. And then you know you have to also ask yourself like what kind of trauma is in the background there that might be making it so hard for them. You know also that in some Asian cultures to mark something or somebody in your life as something precious to you is to mark them for death. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about?
But it sounds scary.
Well, in other words, like, the way that Asian parents, you know, there's this kind of cultural thing that some Asian parents do where if anybody praises their children, they automatically say something negative about their children instead. You know that, right?
yeah.
That's not because they hate their children, that's because they've been taught that if they allow praise to be heaped on their child, that God will take that child away. That comes from a cultural background of a time period when, you know, infant mortality was really high.
Is that like PTSS? With like when black folks, when somebody's like praising their child, they're like trying to push it down? Like,
Well, yeah, if you think about a culture where for hundreds of years, the child that gets praised is the one that gets sold down the river, of course you're not, I mean, it's the same concept, right?
Yeah.
That you can't trust the world to take care of your child, so you don't want anybody to see that child as anything that they might want for any reason, whether it's other people's jealousy, the God's jealousy, or, you know, the master is going to sell them down the river. Whatever it is, you don't want your child to stick out that way. And our parents don't know that that's the reason that they do that, but that is deeply ingrained in how they were often raised. On top of various other traumas related to, you know, being refugees or being immigrants and all of the struggles that they may have had, or that their parents may have had. So when we think about the food that we're sharing with each other, it is actually trying to go beyond that and recognizing how we communicate with one another and how our parents have communicated with us this love through food. You can eat now, Jerry.